Council meeting on Tuesday, April 17th at 7 p.m. Would everyone please rise by the invocation given by Ms. Lucido, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, on behalf of all those gathered here today, we ask for your continued blessing. We ask for your guidance as we work through our agenda. We ask that you continue to help us to understand each other as we work to find fair solutions to issues that face our city. Thank you for your blessings and for your guidance. We look forward to a great summer in our city, and we ask that you keep our residents safe. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, starting with item 1, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Here.
Councilmember Lucido?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld?
Here.
Councilmember Owens?
Here.
Mayor Pixley?
All right, moving on to item 2, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I had one, well, I think I at least had one suggested change, just switching D and E in new business. We should be reversing those two.
All right, did you
motion
want to
to do
move it
so.
to the end of closed session, or how did you want to manage that? Because Ryan's not going to be available until, I think, 8:45.
All right, so reverse them and move them to just before adjournment then, right? Yeah.
I think that is a good idea.
Yes.
Is that a motion?
We'll make that a motion.
Support.
All right, anything else to add?
That was-
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
All right, moving on to item 3, hearing of the public. Would anyone wish to be heard?
Come down before to talk about the flop house for the dope addicts that put it in my street.
All right, could you please state your name for the,
Wayne Winters, I live at Donald Street. I've been there for 46 years, and I can't get, Mr. Marucci has helped me. And Mr. Albright, they've sent a letter. They've contacted the slumlord at Luz and Grand Blanc that owns the place. But they didn't get no response to their correspondence. So I was just wondering what's going to be done, and if anything is going to be done. And I was told that another correspondence was going to be sent to this person, which hasn't happened as of yet. And now I just got my assessment. My taxes are going up this year. Now, if they're going to open a flop house for dope addicts on my street, what's that going to do for my property value? And the property value of people around me? And what about the children in the neighborhood? All the propaganda everybody puts out about how they want to take care of the kids in the neighborhood, how they want to do this. And no one does anything about these questions that I'm asking right now. And I don't understand it, why it's something can't be done to stop this progress that's going on in our neighborhoods.
we can't answer your questions during the hearing of the public, but perhaps Mr. Marucci could speak to that once we get down to city manager reports.
Okay, that's fine.
Would anybody else wish to be heard? Mr. Creech?
Harvey Creech, resident of East Detroit, going on 50 years. Thank you, Mike. I'm sorry to hear that the mayor can't be here tonight, because maybe she was the one I really wanted to talk to, but I can talk to the rest of the council with her not being here. And the thing that I would like to bring up, and why I'm having such a problem with it, I'll never understand whatsoever. But like she said at our last meeting, she didn't know anything about alternating, anything about all this, or you know what I said before too? I've got 5 pieces of documents right here from 2011 that talk about alternating from city to city on the 5th member. I mean, I can read them, and I'll just read a couple of them just to have something to do. Like it said, this is from the paper. It said the authority would run by a 5-member board comprising of 2 residents or administrators of each city, and the 5th member who would seat would rotate. I know what rotate means, apparently. You know what I'm saying? Rotate means between city and city. This is the one, Mike, when I met you and your mother at the state of the city, and we discussed this, a little bit of an interim, and I more or less pleased. I made some documents. I would appreciate it, and you can read it. It's real easy. I would like, I'll read it too, but I said, excuse me. This just shows where it was passed. There was a bylaw to amend it. The bylaw never got put in, done anything with. And then right now, as I said, I've done what I was supposed to do. I filled out all my paperwork. I filled out for my commissions and the committees and the rest of the stuff. And I would like to ask, it's a heck of a thing to say, I would like to ask if the council itself was even, let's put it this way. Was anyone on the council asked if the fifth member of that board could remain if he wanted to, because you didn't have anybody that wanted the seat? And according to the bylaws, it says that you're supposed to put it in the paper, you're supposed to review the people, then if you have none, you can go back to the board. Well, apparently, I don't count, or maybe anybody else in there, and up until the last time when it came up, the biggest one right here was for the commission applications. You had before recreation activities. You finally come up with one that said Recreation Authority. I signed up for it before the election. I mentioned it to them, and when I was at the meeting, though.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. When I was at the meeting, they more or less slandered our council. They said our council doesn't count. And maybe they're right, because Rare became an entity. It says Rare takes care of its own. Well, without this council right here doing what it should do, or asking for application from the city to get another member, a fifth neutral member, they can say what they want, how they want. And there again, too, as I said before, too, because it being an entity, it no longer is required through the city. I think everybody's, the authority itself knows exactly what I'm talking about, or hopefully you do.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else wish to be heard? All right, seeing none, the hearing of the public is closed. Moving on to approval of the minutes. Item A, regular meeting, April 3rd, 2018.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 3rd, 2018.
Support.
Moved and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Moving on to item B, special meeting, April 10th, 2018.
And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll motion to approve the special meeting minutes of April 10th, 2018.
Support.
Moved and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld?
Yes. Moving on to item 5, there are no scheduled hearings. So moving on to 6, unfinished business, which there is none. So we will move on to 7, reports from administration, and we'll start with Mr. Marucci.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld and members of council. A couple items I'd like to bring to your attention and to the attention of the public. The first one being that tomorrow night, here in this room at 6 o'clock, we will hold a meeting with the residents of Topher between Boulder and David, who will be impacted by the construction. We hand-delivered notices to the people last week, and in that was also a summary of how it would work. So hopefully the people will attend. We had it on Facebook. We'll post it again on Facebook. We find that if people come to these meetings, they're not surprised. And in fact, they know, I always tell people when I conduct them, I'm going to make your life miserable for 3 months, but then you won't see me for 30 years because you'll be happy and it's worth what's going on. The repair is, it's dusty, it's noisy, it's early, it's late, but it's an inconvenience that there's no way around. So hopefully we'll get good attendance at the meeting because it's to their benefit. The school's been notified about it. The police and fire will be notified about it. So this is nothing new, but I know last time we didn't have good attendance. Hopefully this time with early notice, Facebook notice, people will attend. That's one item.
Did you ask people to respond?
We did not.
Okay.
There's no need to RSVP. We just want you to come.
I was
to the
just
meeting.
curious because then maybe you'd have an idea if anyone saw or, saw the message.
Well, they may not have seen the message, but every house, as well as the houses on the cross streets for 4 houses down on either side, if that's the case, was hand-delivered a letter last Thursday.
Okay.
So I think we delivered, Lori, would you say 120 letters?
I think it was 170.
Excuse me, 170 letters were delivered. So
Okay.
hopefully we'll get response. We want people to be aware of this so they're not surprised. Secondly, on Thursday, 2 days from now, on April 19th from 12 to 5, the mobile Secretary of State office will be coming to our parking lot. I found out about this last September when I had to renew my license and I didn't want to go stand at the Secretary of State's office and take a half a day off. I renewed my license in 5 minutes. They were at the Wayne County Community College campus on Old 8 Mile Road. There was no one in front of me. So I thought, what a neat idea. Let's bring them to Eastpointe. So they'll be here on Thursday from 12 to 5. So I think you can do just about anything. At these renew plates, renew your driver's license, register to vote. You would do it here at City Hall, obviously. But if you hear this, take advantage because I'm astounded that like I said, it took 5 minutes for me to do what I think would have taken a half a day off and stand in line. Thirdly, this is advance notice. May 19th is a Saturday, Open Yard Day, which is an annual event here. We'll have that post. In fact, it's already on the website, 9 to 2 at the DPW yard. And also, this is our 3rd year participating in the program, but the Macomb County Sheriff's Office has a program where trustees who are low-level convicts will come and do public service. And we've had them here yesterday, and they were cleaning 8 Mile Road, and I didn't get a count of the bags, but if it's the typical pickup day, there's a ton of bags out there. So they'll be coming back on Thursday, and we'll be having them do Gratiot Avenue. And one last item, and this is for the council's benefit, but as you know, we have 2 days scheduled for workshops, discussions on the proposed budget. Last year, I think we used 1 day. There may be more questions this year. You have the line item budget that's been shared with you. What I don't want to do is bring the department heads in all on the first night and find out we only have time to do 3 and have those people come back for a second night. If you would think about this yourselves, if it's better, let's just plan 2 nights and I'll schedule 3 department heads one night and 3 another night versus let's just try to wing it and we find out we end up going till 11 o'clock and I think we all know what happens after about 9 or 9:30. So I'd like to know what your belief is or what you wish to do because I don't want to bring people to sit around nor at the same point in time not bring them and find out we really could have dealt with those departments as well. So you'll all let me know, and I guess we'll go with what the majority says they feel comfortable in doing. I want to make sure we do a thorough presentation of the budget, answer all your questions.
Do any department heads have conflicts with either day?
I've not even polled them to find out. So if they do, I would just obviously just move them to the other day. But my belief is you're probably going to use both days, but I don't want to take that upon myself and find out we're scheduling a second day for no purpose. So if you could think about it, see how many questions you come to formulate, and we'll go from there. And that's all I have.
Well, just personally speaking about the department heads, I think it would probably make more sense to have all the department heads the first day there, and then we might have a sense if there was, because I think we can go through and do kind of a high-level overview, and then the next day, if we need certain ones to come back, do that. Because the second day, I would think, is when we would address if we want to do any changes or anything like that. The first day, I think we could get through each department with asking questions, because that's basically what we need them there for, is my thought on that. I don't know if you have a different opinion, Randy Altimus.
No, I think we can make good progress through that, and Randy Blum and myself put, the bulk of it together anyway, so I think we'll be fine. And
Right, I agree. Like, if we just start with the departments like library, that we might, if we have questions to the library, like, have those departments go first. And then the questions we'd have for Randy Altemus, Joe Marucci, and.
Exactly, 'cause
Well,
we'd always
this-
come at the
We'd
end.
always do that on
Yes.
the end or on the second day then.
I agree. Okay. Then we'll plan for the department heads on the first night, and if we have a second one, it'll be with Randy Altemus, Randy Blum, myself, and maybe a follow-up with a department or two. Good enough. We'll plan accordingly.
All right, do we have any other questions?
Did, it still seems like it's winter, but, a tour of the city, we were still going to do, right, we'll send a couple,
We'll get you some dates out, yes, and we are still, we'll wait for spring to come.
it might be next week, it'll be winter the week after again.
We may have missed our window of opportunity, which was about 3 weeks ago. I will send out several days, beginning in about the second week of May.
Okay.
For Fridays. And again, we'll be doing the tour on a bus. We'll make sure if it's enough in advance that we can attempt to have the smart bus, mini bus available for us.
Sure.
I suppose without our finance director here, if we have any, did anyone have any finance questions they wanted to ask? Mr. Marucci?
Not today.
If you have check questions, just let me know now or later on, and I'll obviously the accounts payable, we'll have the backup information. I could answer those for Friday.
I had one, I think I'd spoken to you about it before, just in terms of tree removal related to Topher. I believe, my understanding is, in the past, we've had those included in the plans when we went out to bid, but for this project, the tree removal is not a part of the MDOT contract?
That's correct.
Which is why we're paying separately a vendor?
Yes.
Which number was that one?
Is it 116170?
It is, yeah.
The bottom of page 2? We find it cheaper to have tree people do tree projects versus hiring a street contractor to pave, then who would then hire a subcontractor to do tree removal.
I know in the past, it used to be part of the overall bids that AEW would put together, and
Okay.
my understanding is the MDOT contracts were structured differently.
Is it still, we still probably charge it to major or local
Correct,
roads though, right? Yeah,
correct.
okay.
Now, the letter that I gave you earlier today, with some of the line items going towards all these landscaping companies and lawn companies, why do we have so many and not just use one? Because I know we have JJ Mitch, then we have Ed's, then we have American Dream, and Advanced Tree Experts, what he just talked about. Why don't we just use one contracting company? Why are we using so many?
Sorry not to interrupt. Mr. Altimus might be able to speak better to that, because I know that you explained, we just had like 5 contracts in a row.
We just went
Yeah.
through the mowing bid that had 5 divisions that we awarded to Ed and American Dream. JJ Mish is under contract for parks, and the trees are under the tree contract. So each vendor is under a different contract.
Understandable why we can't just use one and
I
everybody
have to
just-
do it by a bid process, so whoever's low bidder is how we award the bid. So under those 5 divisions, we awarded 2 or 3 to Ed and 2 to Stacy American Dream. JJ Mish under the Parks Department is a total separate RFP bid, so that's how it was awarded.
Okay.
Well, if I remember correctly, well, I know some folks just do commercial cutting and some do residential, and I remember, if I remember correctly, it was quite a deal we got though on the cuts. It was very low.
Yeah, I remember that deal. I'm just wondering why we have 5 people doing, why we have 5 contractors for the city of Eastpointe and not using one. That's
'Cause we-
my whole thing.
Maybe get a better deal with one, right, is what you're saying?
Yeah, we give everybody that, yeah, not doing so many contracts. What do you think about what I just dealing with one contractor for the city?
I still can't control that. That's under a bid circumstance. I put the bids together and have to award it appropriately based on how the contract is bid out. So I don't have any control under going one unless the council wants to give me sole authority to award contracts. And I don't see that happening by about 3 smirks up there. That's the way I have to operate as purchasing. I'd love to have just one contractor do it all, but that's not how it works.
I remember them being all over the place. Like some were willing to do the small lots really cheap, but then not the large ones. So
I'm at least down to 2. I used to have 5, 1 per each division. So, and I break them up in divisions because they go and are charged to different parts of the budget.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
And then I think that goes on, what was the other question I had? When we're using T-Mobile, Sprint, Comcast, and so forth, why aren't we using just one? And then we also are using WOW. Why are we using so many internet phone companies? Why aren't we just going with the one?
Comcast and WOW handle our cable system. We go with them. We have them in locations because we pay for having both into our facilities so we can monitor WOW and Comcast at the same time. T-Mobile and Sprint are both handled because of just because we get better deals and we go with the one that we get a better deal with at the time. So we try to keep everything under one contractor, but in this case we use Wide Open West and Comcast depending on what's a better deal we can get for the things that we're buying.
Do we have any other questions? All right. As stated before, our finance director is not here, so we'll move on to item C, city attorney. Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld. I have drafted and circulated a proposed Arts and Cultural Diversity Commission ordinance for the council's consideration. It is in ordinance form with the appropriate section numbers. Today I did receive an email from Mary Van Haren. She's in agreement with the proposed ordinance as drafted. I also received an email from Mayor Pixley this afternoon as well. She had a couple of items that she would like to discuss. So if the council would like to have this placed on the next agenda for discussion and consideration and possible revision, that's something that the council could do.
I think that'd be a good idea.
I agree.
All right.
Would you be able to look into the Parks and Recreation Committee that we're trying to bring back and look at the bylaws, how we can get that back started as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think we just need to appoint people to it again, I believe, because it's still in the ordinances.
Well,
I believe so. I don't think it's been,
no, it's still in the books,
Right.
but there may be some changes you want to do because we don't do programming any longer. It's just now the facilities, and as minor as there's an issue, like there were 9 members. Well, I don't know if we'll find 9 people, and I guess you can always try to find 9 people. But so we just maybe the best thing with that ordinance is the same thing as the city attorney just recommended with the Arts and Culture and Diversity Commissions. Let's put it on for discussion and let's hear your comments and let's go from there. So,
So next 2 meetings, Arts and Culture, the 2 after that, Parks and Rec?
no, both on the next
Oh,
agenda.
both on-
on the next
okay.
agenda, right,
all
All right.
we could discuss it at the next meeting as well
exactly,
for possible amendments.
yeah.
Even better.
Thank you.
Maybe just attach the current,
Mhm.
I know we can all look it up, but so we're all looking.
No,
at the
that will be part of it, is we will attach the proposed and we'll attach the current Parks and Recreation Committee or Commission ordinance.
Yes. I'd also like to address the gentleman's concern about the one house. Our office did send a letter to the property owner as well as the occupants. That letter was ignored. We never received any response at all. I seem to remember as well that I had asked the owner to either for them to contact our office or to have their legal representative contact our office, and no one contacted our office. So our office is in contact with city administration to discuss possible legal options at this point that the city can pursue. If warranted, a lawsuit may be commenced in order to get injunctive relief, but that is something that our office is reviewing with the city manager, or the acting city manager presently. So with that, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I don't have anything further. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, did anyone have any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to new business. Item A, award bid for new HVAC system at the district court. Perhaps, Mr. Altimus, you'd like to give a brief introduction to this, and I know we have some people here also from the company.
Yes, I asked the folks from Train to come because they've been trying to make this system work for the last 3 or 4 years. The system has been kind of a problem ever since it was put in when they built the building. They've had all kinds of problems with trying to get it to function the way it was designed to function. Unfortunately, when they built the building, Train wasn't the one that installed it. And so over the years, we've been trying to get this system to function the way it's supposed to. In the last 3 to 4 years, working with Karen and Judge Gerds, the system is basically degraded further than it had been. So I got in contact with Train to have them come out and start evaluating the system and basically putting a maintenance contract in place so we had their expertise available to us when it didn't start work. And I know Mr. Albright knows exactly what this system does and doesn't do, which is function. Unfortunately, when we started talking about the new police court fire building, it took my CIP schedule and then shifted it. So a lot of my CIP projects for those buildings got then delayed off. This was one of those systems that was about ready to come to fruition when we started talking about that. With that project on hold, and at this point financially, I don't know that that project is going to be able to go forward. We were going to put it back in the capital improvement. I've been back in touch with Karen. What was it, about 2 or 3 months ago, the system completely collapsed. And at one point, they had over 100-degree temperatures in the court building. And we actually had to bring Train in and pay some additional costs trying to get it just to function enough so they could be in the building. And at that point, we started the conversation about what can we do now without going into a lengthy 5 to 6 month bidding process. Fortunately for us, Train has a bid through U.S. Communities that we can actually work with. So I involved Chris at Partners and Salim, our mechanical engineer, and met with them and went over the whole, basically the whole system from top to bottom, and made sure that the direction we were going to go or thinking we're going was what we thought would be appropriate. And both of them came away from the meeting with good feelings about the proposed project. Salim made a suggestion of adding a duplicate boiler for in case you lose one, you don't lose your total heat. I did talk to Salim and Chris. I had a conference call with them and talked about could we just get away from the boiler system and go to forced air. Salim indicated that'd be extremely more expensive to do based on having to basically start over with your ductwork and redoing it. So the project that we have in place, we did put for funding purposes, Mr. Blum came up with, the court already has a building fund monies that they set aside based on fines that they get. And we've talked actually to them about increasing that money into that pot. We're going to kind of use that going into the new building. At this point, they have $150,000 in there that we can utilize. And then Mr. Blum wanted to just basically have a general fund loan with that being paid back by those fines as they come in. And that's how he thought we could fund this whole project. The project is a turnkey system, which they will control and oversee and basically do the whole project. So it's putting in train equipment, which gives me a lot more confidence than where we're at currently.
I had a quick question. Who's the original company?
The original company, back when they started that project, I'm not quite sure who the mechanical engineer, but they started with a general contractor that basically was bankrupt before they even awarded the bid. And they ended up not even going through a quarter away of the project and ended up having to basically secure bonds and go back out to hire another general contractor to put the system in. So the project started and then stopped and then started again. So we have, and of course, then that general hired his own people. So I've never really been able to, since I wasn't here, track who the subcontractor was. When I came in, they had some of the local folks trying to handle it, and it just wasn't working. They didn't have the expertise.
The equipment, though. What brand of equipment?
It's train equipment.
So the original is train.
Correct, but it just was not installed by Train, the company.
Right. Okay.
I'm guessing from looking at the correspondence, is this, has Karen Haydet been like involved in the conversations? On
Karen Haydet has been number one in this conversation. Her and I have been talking. I think she has these folks on speed dial. I know Kathy's on speed dial. I'm not sure. I'm not sure everybody is, but her and I have had long conversations before and current.
Okay. I know we have some representatives from Train here. If you'd like to come up to the microphone and introduce yourself, I'm sure that there are some questions. Hi.
I'm Kathy Taylor. I'm the account manager for Eastpointe.
Hi, my first name is Nick, last name's Ivanoff. I am the project manager and project developer for Train.
All right. Did anyone have any questions that they wanted to start off with?
Did you have anything to intro with? Or
Maybe what I would like to probably bring to your attention is how we got here and how Train got involved. We were called in about 3 years ago when the system was in very, very poor condition. We came in and we've been trying to maintain it since then. However, we were told to Band-Aid what you could and not make, quote, major repairs. So we've been, which is probably not the best way to operate a building, but we were told they were going to vacate the building and to just do what you could to keep it as operational as you could. The problem that you have is that equipment was installed in 1995, which makes it 23 years old. The life expectancy of the average equipment is 15 to 20 years old. So you've actually done pretty well. You got a few extra years out of it in spite of the problems you incurred prior to us getting involved. The boilers happen to be Raypak boilers, and there are no parts available for the current boilers that you have. There are 2 down there. Only one is operational. So the other one is limping along, and we've really jumped the controls out of it. Oh, sorry to use a term like that, but we've bypassed the controls because we can't get any more for them. They are unavailable. So the VAV, the variable air volume boxes, have leaks in them because the coils are so old, they've deteriorated, so you're getting leaks onto your ceilings. So that's the condition of the current system. So what we're proposing to do is put a like-for-like system in, but with all new equipment and the boilers. And, well, I'll let Nick go into the proposal.
One thing she didn't mention was the air conditioning unit. So the air conditioning unit that serves the AC basically has 2 of the major components are completely failed, which is a compressor. We've all heard compressors in our air conditioning systems at home, and the condenser coil. To replace those with the amount of labor and material would obviously exceed a cost of a new unit. So you didn't mention that. I just wanted to mention that as your
There's so much.
third component. So really, we looked at various different solutions for the AC portion. It's basically you have an air conditioning system on the roof, and then you have your air handling unit in the mechanical room in the basement. So we looked at a couple different solutions, but keeping it like for like as far as the technology or the type of system makes the most economical sense. We are putting in new higher efficient equipment, so you will see a reduction in energy cost. As far as the boilers go, we will be in our solution of looking at what you have, putting in a new high efficiency condensing boiler. So basically going from an 80% boiler to a 94% boiler. So we're basically creating a primary secondary system. We'd be using the one existing boiler that we've kind of, what Kathy mentioned, is modified. We bring that one back up to where it was, and we'd use your condensing boiler as in the shoulder months when you just need a little heat instead of overshooting, undershooting, so you'd be a lot more energy efficient. And then when we need to bring out a second boiler, we can use that second one. As far as the zone control, which you used the term variable air volume boxes, we'd be basically putting on new controls and new boxes in to give everyone their own individual comfort. That's really the most sustainable and economical solution. We looked at various different ones, but based on the floor plan and the existing infrastructure, that is the most economical solution.
And one more thing, Trane would be entirely responsible for the project. In other words, it would be a total turnkey. We would take responsibility, even for your permits with your own city, but it would be everything from start to finish in the project would be totally under the Trane umbrella. Am I assuming everyone knows what Trane is?
Well, I think we all,
An HVAC company?
Well, Trane has been in business for 125 years, and we not only manufacture, but we also install, service, the equipment. So I hope we'll be here for another 125 years, but I hope I'm retired by then.
So you were saying this bid is the economical bid. I was going to ask, it seems more like the Cadillac bid when a Chevy'd be good. It's a lot of $330,000 is.
Well, if you look at the entire scope of the amount of equipment we're putting in, I'll let Nick go through the equipment list.
Well, I just went through it. So you have, I don't want to get into too much technical terms, but since it's turnkey, it's basically, we are acting as almost like a general contractor. So we're bringing all the demo crew, we're bringing in all the electrical contractors. All of our subcontractors are basically going to be overseen, warranted, and basically underneath this whole scope of work, if that makes sense. So basically, that's including phasing the work. That includes relocating, includes safety, dust control, site logistics, working with Karen and on-site individuals. So it includes, it's not just, we're just coming in to put in an air conditioner. We're going to be doing the whole total scope of work as well as standing behind it, guaranteeing the system and the warranty.
Your current air conditioning system has a refrigerant in it. It's called R22, which is now obsolete. You can't even get it anymore. So your new system will have 410A, be much more efficient, and it'll be the new refrigerants, also safer. So there's a lot of things going on there that maybe aren't as detailed in the quote.
I have one question. What is the warranty that because when I was reading through this, all I could find is like the limited warranty for 12 months. But I was just wondering, is there a warranty on the products and on the service?
Great question,
and
great
installation?
question. Since it's a turnkey, we warrant our work from what we call substantial completion date or owner acceptance. So once the job is completely finished, we have a final walkthrough. And once the owner, in this case if it's Randy or Karen, whoever that owner representative is, signs off on it and accepts everything. So we go through, we walk through, kind of like what you see on the home improvement shows. They'll put their little blue tape here, little blue tape here. We've missed something here. So we'll go through all that. Once we have that final date set in stone, we have a full 1-year parts and labor warranty for the entire system. So once that expires, what we've offered is what we do is we look at each individual piece of equipment, and based on what are its main components and what can possibly go wrong, that's where we give the value to say, we're gonna give you an extended warranty here. So for example, let's look at your air conditioning unit. So on the air conditioning unit, your biggest thing is the compressor, which is kind of like your engine on a car. So what we've provided on the engine, we've provided a 5-year compressor parts and labor. So think of that as that's basically your biggest moving parts is on your compressor. So we're giving you a 5-year compressor parts and labor warranty. So if anything were to go wrong with the compressor, labor and parts are completely covered. On the entire unit, what did we give? We have.
The standard, I think.
We did a 5-year parts only on the entire unit. So normally if after 5 years, let's say the 4th year, your condenser coil has a small leak, that condenser coil will be covered. Now the labor to replace it will not be covered. So it's something that we can work with Randy on, but it's kind of owner preference at that point. Do they want to carry the extra labor? There's more, it's a lot more, much more of a higher cost to carry labor on a condenser coil than it is on a compressor. It just, you get more bang for your buck on something that's constantly moving than just something that's just sheet metal or just copper and there's no moving parts to it. So that's why we offered that. If you looked at the boiler, let's see what we have on our rate pack. That I might have to get back to you because I'm not 100% sure on the condensing boilers. I would say it's at least, I think boilers have a standard 10-year parts and labor, but I'll have to double check that. But I know boilers and furnaces normally are about 10 years. Normally on the heat exchangers, but bumper to bumper, I'm gonna have to confirm that.
We'll get that back to Randy if that's okay to confirm it.
Okay, yeah, because on here, it's for even like the condenser, it says, 2 through 5 on the compressor parts and labor, so that's why I wasn't sure, like, you're giving us a window, so on
Well,
here.
1 year's included.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I see what you're saying,
Oh,
all
yeah,
right.
so that's why we say 2.
Yes, okay, that makes
1
sense.
year, and then that's additional. I know it's worded, if you're not used to reading it.
Yeah, if you're not used to the lingo. But yeah, it's 1 year bumper to bumper, parts and labor, and then after that, the main components, which is the compressor, is the extended warranty.
Oh, go ahead.
What are these Band-Aids that we've been doing for a couple of years then?
We've been trying to repair pumps, we've been trying to grease, oil, lube, everything we can. We've gotten up with that condensing unit. We've tried to repair the coil. We had one, it has 2 compressors in it. We got one running. We tried to repair the coil numerous times, but it just kept failing. Like I said, we've bypassed parts on the boiler. We've tried cleaning them. It's just been a lot of things. We've gotten up into the ceiling with the variable air volume boxes, trying to repair those coils. So we've done a lot of Band-Aids, as we'll say, without trying to being conscious of costs, because we were trying to contain costs too, because the thought was you were gonna move out of the building.
Why didn't we just look at replacing it back then?
The thought was, what I was told, and I don't know if this is true, is that you were gonna vacate the building.
I think
Well,
that,
sure, but that's years out even from, we didn't even have the
Well,
initial,
That's what I was told, so I don't know your,
well, because these Band-Aids were very expensive, I guess. It was 60,000 over 2 years, so those are, that's all we could have, that would have been a fifth of the cost of this whole bid.
And that decision was made by somebody higher than I am.
Who's
I-
not here anymore?
so
Correct.
I had some questions. I know that Mr. DeMonico, I believe he emailed, I'm not sure who replied to the email, maybe one.
Oh, it wasn't Train, it was Partners.
Oh, okay. And I wish I had printed it out. I read it on my phone before the meeting. police station, what equipment do they have? Because they're on a separate system, aren't they?
Yes, there's, each system, it was split. We divided that up. Has it been 5 years, 6 years? It's been a while since we based, because they, at one point when I got here, they were commingling not only air handling units, but how the building was heated, not heated, cooled. One half would be cooled by this side and by the police side, but the other half, it was a mess to do that. I'm not sure what brand that we put in at the time, but we went through and basically subdivided both spaces so they were on their own. The only part of PD that actually is still using the district court is the one that's housed in the basement of the district court, which is the detective bureau, correct?
So when we did that, we put in new equipment for.
Yes,
to
we
manage the
redid the
side.
boiler system and everything back then for the PD side.
And we don't know if that's also trained.
No, I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look at that. I don't believe it was. I think it was some other manufacturer.
Was there any consideration of expanding what the police department has to I guess recombine or somehow service the whole building with one system?
Well, each side of the building functions differently. That's why we subdivided it in the first place, because of, district court might not be in all the time, so they might be turning down the heat or the boilers on weekends where PD is a 24/7, 365 operation, and they use it in different manners. They've got their their cell area that's being used differently. So it was subdivided because of the usage of the building and how the building was used overall. And that was part of the problem is, district court would not be in session or be out. Their heating would turn down, which would then affect the other side of the building and PD where it was then getting cold, and vice versa. So that's why we did that.
Well, I was curious about it just because my understanding is there would be an ability to control different areas as part of this project. So I'm wondering if it would make more sense to expand what PD has. I have no idea because I don't know what's down there. And if you don't have any idea on what's down there right now, I guess that's not.
I could look up,
right now.
when we did the project itself. I've got all the, warranty books and everything in my office, but I don't know what manufacturer we used back at that point. But it would be a pretty good size undertaking to combine the whole system at that point.
I do think that we have to do something because we were looking at hopefully being able to put aside enough money to build a new municipal complex or do, because the building's getting old. That said, since we know that even if we're still looking at that, it's going to be years out, we do have to, we can't have it raising to 100 degrees in the summer and we can't have it freezing in the winter. So there's definitely work to do.
I agree. Sorry, Train, but how come we didn't just go out for a traditional bid on this one?
Well, I was talking about doing that until I found out that they had a U.S. Communities bid already in place, but it would be 5-6 months bid process by the time we go out, do design, get it bid specs put together, get it out and get it back in. Summer is coming and they just told you the air conditioning unit doesn't work. So I'm under the gun trying to get this accomplished before that really gets uncomfortable in the building. So I wanted to utilize the U.S. Communities bid instead of putting in the costs and the additional costs that we would have to do specs and design. That's kind of why I had partners and Salim look at it overall to get their input on it.
What's all this work we did on the air conditioner then? We just did 13,000 in work.
Yeah, just to keep it running.
So then it'll run through the summer, right?
Well, we're hoping just to get this new system in so we don't have to worry about it.
So then we wasted $13,000.
No, we don't waste money. We try to keep operations going the best we can. Again, we were told to keep it running.
Yeah, but the timeline is done by May 30th. Well, we'll have to go, no.
No, it's gonna
Well,
be
the
longer
AC
than that.
was put in May 30, but, I mean, we'll have to push it back a couple weeks because this started on April 2nd. But to me, I don't know, looking at the timeline, didn't look like well, who knows, it's snowing right now. We might not need AC by then, so why I don't understand why we did all these air conditioner repairs then.
Well, up until a couple weeks ago, when we started talking about this, I was still gonna have to have an air conditioner trying to run. So, I had to make a decision to try to keep what we had functioning long enough for them to get going or get your approval, which is all in almost the same time frame here. So I'm kind of darned if I do and darned if I don't. If I don't, and I don't get this thing going and you don't approve it, now I gotta turn around and do it anyways. In this case, if anybody told me a week ago we'd have snow on, today, I'm trying to outsmart the weather, and you can see how I'm doing.
I'm just saying, I think we have the time then. If we fixed the air conditioner, we just need that for the hot months coming up, right? We could do a bid in that time.
Well, that's up to you folks. If you don't want to use the U.S. Communities bid and you want me to have partners design something and go out to bid, you're looking fall before I have something back to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather, if we're gonna end up approving a project, I'd rather do it sooner than later, because as you pointed out, fixing it and not actually upgrading it's actually costing probably just as much over the long run.
You're adding it on top of my project.
Oh, but I'm saying we already fixed it, the AC. We don't touch the boilers then, and I mean, we'll have a few cold days left, I guess, but,
The air conditioner is not working.
so what,
It's got a defective it's got two compressors, one's defective and the coil is defective. So the air conditioner is not working.
so we paid you $13,000 and it still doesn't work.
What 13,000 you're talking about?
In February.
Yeah, there's an invoice you sent us on January 16th, February 6th, a couple of them, and a couple on February 20th, and they add up to $13,556.72.
But those were not for the condensing unit on the roof, they were for other repairs.
Well, it says air conditioner repairs.
Well,
Well,
I can get you the field reports on those, but we were not working on an air conditioner in January.
yeah, I think, like, today we got the vendor runs. So I mean, we just have a check registry to look at. We don't really know what the details on that were. I think maybe, do you think that it would be problematic, Mr. Altemus, to wait until the next council meeting to make a decision? Because I think over 2 weeks, we might be able to get what questions we have left answered.
If I get the questions. I didn't know these were issues or concerns. So 2 weeks, again, you're pushing, if they're telling you we have no air conditioning unit functioning, you're pushing us into probably, based on the timeline I saw, mid-July, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the air conditioning unit's 7 weeks lead time. That's your longest lead time item on the list of bill of materials.
And that's
So
the hard
air
part.
conditioner unit doesn't work at all right now.
And that's the hard part for them is what do they have available as far as equipment that the rest of it they have to have built or brought in.
Now, they've been working for us for 4 to 5 years. Is it something that, when they start working for us, was that bidded for 4 or 5 years? Do we have a contract with them already?
We brought them in under a maintenance contract to start working with us because we've tried 3, 4 other vendors that just didn't have the expertise. And basically, I got to a point trying to work with the court that the frustration level it was kind of one of those last-ditch efforts to try to find out what was going on. We did not bid it, we just brought them in with their expertise to try to help us see where we could get through it.
Was that supposed to be bidded?
We haven't bid maintenance contracts, no.
Never, okay.
Well, personally, I will say this, that if it's possible, I do want to go with Train because if they've been working with the system for 2 years, I think it's inevitable if we go to another contractor, they're going to run into issues they did not anticipate. The fact that you guys are familiar with it would mean that I think you're better prepared to take on the project. I think just some of the, it was a lot of information to digest that we got. So I did have some specific questions that I wanted to ask. I know that we, there was a lot that we were going through. In terms of the roof, if we replace that unit, is there a risk that we're going to damage and need to repair the roof after that?
No. What we'll do is, we've, in part of development, validated the weight of the existing unit and the new unit. So that they use a little bit different technology, so the newer technology is a little bit less weight, if you will, load. So there'll be a little bit modification for the footprint of the actual, but that's just more, just because it's sitting on structural, or it's sitting on, we call them pedestals, okay? But there won't be any existing roof penetrations. Your existing piping going to the mechanical room from the roof, there's already what we call a pipe chase. So there's already an enclosure there, so we wouldn't be opening up any roof, we wouldn't be opening up the membrane of the roof, everything would be intact.
Most of the time, you guys use some pretty big equipment to get those things up there, too.
Yeah, crane.
I do share the concerns with the air conditioning. I know that on a busy day, that courtroom gets packed. And I think when you're asking people to stand around, jurors and people there that are appearing, you can't have it overheating in there. Is it possible to approve that one piece of the project to get a new air conditioner and then revisit kind of redoing the duct, the lines, the electrical?
To answer your question, yes, you could do it in pieces, but typically, the pieces are gonna cost you more than the whole, because now we're gonna have to start bringing in the crews, bringing in everybody over and over. And the other issue that you have is, at that point, do we go ahead and upgrade the controls? Don't we upgrade the controls? So, I mean, when you start talking about pieces, it would, I mean, we can do it. The answer is yes, but.
But bad idea.
I didn't say that. I said it typically will cost you more because of, doing everything separately.
Mr. Kaiser, if I could ask, how are things working over on the other side of the building?
We occasionally have trouble with our boiler system and air conditioning. So it does require service from time to time. We have made a better effort of keeping up with the required maintenance, changing of filters, tune-ups on the machines that may not have been happening in the past. So on a whole, on average, everything works well.
Well, but see, here's the thing that's good to know. If it might be more cost beneficial if we are looking at, we might have to work on that at some point to do the whole thing at once. Not that I want to expand the project.
We just did theirs 5 years ago, though. I mean, I would hope we wouldn't have to replace that when it's ready. You said 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, it's got to be
I mean, that's
within
still
five.
fairly new.
At least
The
5
average life
years.
expectancy is 15 years.
Do you have any idea what type of, if it's the same type of equipment on the other side, or?
I don't have any idea about how HVAC
Okay.
works.
Usually the key to our system is maintaining it, and that's what we've been trying to do. So that's why I do here. I have 7 units on this building that we maintain. Spring cleanup, fall cleanup, power washing, the whole 9 yards. And but these systems run 24/7, 365. They never stop, even if you're not in the building. So
And I think one of the other things in the email that I saw was it discussed replacing, because I think we're looking at replacing 2 boilers with what we have in front of us, right?
Yes.
There are 2 boilers there currently. Only one's operational. Our original quote, we only included the 1 boiler. When we met with your architect and engineer, they said, we would like you to put an option for a 2nd boiler because in the event of any type of failure, you have redundancy then, you have a backup boiler. So that's what the additional money was for a 2nd boiler.
So if we just fix the broken one, we'll have a backup one, though, that would work in the case of an emergency?
Okay, one is operating right now. However, it's not in very good condition. It may, and the controllers on it, we can't get anymore. It's a Raypak boiler. It's not a Train product. It's obviously a Raypak product, and we cannot get parts for it anymore. So if it does have a catastrophic failure or a major part, we are not going to, and I guess we could try to take it off the boiler that's not working, but it's not a very reliable boiler. But it is there, and it is operational.
I'm gonna just make one small correction. In the proposal, it is just 1 boiler, the high efficiency. However, there is we'll just call it a controller that will also, though, communicate to the existing boiler so we can set up that primary, secondary system. So if the high efficiency boiler does go down, we will have the controls infrastructure in place to start that backup boiler. And you'll see the verbiage in there. I think I called a Versa controller.
Oh,
for
you're putting
both.
another controller on.
We're putting, it's a Raypak
So
Versa
the old,
controller.
so the boiler that's working now would be our backup.
That is
Bor-
correct.
broiler,
We would
right,
have
yeah.
controls that would be retrofitted so that now it can talk.
Okay.
So is those controls, are that extra 28,570, or is that
No, that's for a whole
for a
separate
full boiler?
Correct, yep. There will be, the controls will be a little bit modified, but you will have controls that both boilers will be able to talk to one another.
Well, I think that just saved us $28,570 from what's on our proposed motion.
Now, it will, if I may, it will control that, going back to what Kat said about the controls, but as far as the reliability of its working, heat exchanger, that I can't really speak on. I'm not a maintenance guy. So that would have to be something that, or a service person could comment on how does the heat exchanger look, how does the burner look? That I can't comment on.
I think that on this proposal, the 2nd boiler, what he's talking about is the $28,000. It's replacing the 2nd existing working boiler with a new, for Raypak model efficiency boiler,
Yeah,
correct? So
new-
that is the
like for like.
$28,000.
Correct. Like for 80%.
So wait, so we're not,
Yeah, so.
I hope I helped and I didn't confuse the matter more.
Mr. Altumus, have you been involved in the conversations about possibly combining district courts? Has that,
I have not.
okay.
We're probably 2 years away, if it happens. At the soonest, a year and a half.
I think that's a big if, too.
Correct.
Sure. All right, could I just get if council members wouldn't mind, just, do I get a sense that people want to table for a couple weeks to look at it, or is anyone still feeling ready to act tonight?
I think
I'm
it should
ready
be
to
bidded. I still think it should be bidded like every other thing. We just got done talking about Comcast and Sprint and things like that, and you agreed that bidding is important, so this should be part of a bid.
No, what I said
Agreement.
for Comcast and Wide Open West is those are vendors that we utilize because they're in the building and we use both of them. But the bidding process that you asked me the question is, we bid those out and I bid that service out. So I can't control how many contractors I get out of that bid, because I go usually with the low bidder.
So how will we find out we have a low bidder if we don't put the bid out?
Well, this is a U.S. Communities bid. This has already been bid. So it is a formal bid process that has already gone out there. We're utilizing it because they're extending it to us.
so My problem though with just the U.S. Communities bid is that this is more complicated than buying a car for, say we use the state bid to buy cars. You're buying a car, it's the same car as if you bought it somewhere else. This is like a whole project where there's a million variables. I feel like this could be, if we bid it out, sorry, Train, I know you're right here.
Hear you.
You'll have all the details from me here. Someone else could come in and take a look at it and say they could do it cheaper. I get the prices they're offering are competitive, but is there a different solution is my problem, because I agree with Councilwoman Owens about.
Well, we can put bid specs together. Again, you're looking at the fall. I can't design something any faster than that. That's basically standard. And then my folks are gonna have to go up and get the experience they have to making sure how it's designed and how it's put together, so.
I would not want to continue with the bid. I really think it will be more expensive to prepare a bid proposal, and I think we'll run into contingencies that make the cost go up more than going with the American Communities bid for this. That said, I think maybe we need a little more time to chew on it. Maybe if we table it for a couple of weeks or something like that. Because I do think that we need to approve at least some sort of work to make sure that the courthouse is operating at an acceptable level. That said, I would actually want to have more of a conversation with Mr. Marucci and find out if the district court idea might progress or not, because that could, for me, be determinative in how much money we want to pour into this system. If anyone else has.
So are we motioning to table this, or should we make a motion to put this, we're motioning to table it?
I mean, anyone can make whatever motion they want. I would not support a motion to put this out to bid. I think I just want to have more time to review possibly the scope of the project, so council could make a more informed decision on what would be best long-term.
Is there any further information you'd like from us, other than those field reports and the information on the warranty on the boiler?
I think what you said earlier, Mr. Kleinfeld, about helping us make it through the summer. How can we, are you saying the only option is to replace the whole air conditioner unit, or?
I did a rough estimate of, well, first of all, that unit has R22 refrigerant, which is obsolete.
You can get it.
You can get
How much
it.
is it a pound?
I got a price today on R22 refrigerant. It is about $700 to $800 for 30 pounds. So you're looking at several $1,000s worth of refrigerant just to charge up that unit. Now you have to put a compressor in it. You got to put a new coil in it. The air handler needs a variable frequency drive to operate properly to distribute the air. And we haven't even gotten to the leaking VAV boxes that the coils are leaking onto your ceilings to distribute the air. So at which, do you just replace the condensing unit? And if I replace the condensing unit, I've got to, if I repair it, that's the type of cost you're looking at. If I replace it, then I've got to replace the coil inside the air handler, because the coil and the new unit have to have the same refrigerant. So when you say make it through the summer, I can do whatever you'd like, but those are the scenarios you're facing.
I'd like to see this go out to bid.
I don't think we need to put it out to bid either. Like, I'm completely fine with approving it tonight, so.
This is why we need a fifth person.
Uh-oh, yeah, I have a feeling I see how this is gonna go.
Step out for a minute, or?
No, I don't think
No,
it's
I don't think that's necessary.
It's intimidating, isn't it?
It's public, you're gonna still find out.
Oh, okay. Does everyone on the panel understand U.S. communities?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, vaguely, it sounds just like when we use a state bid or a county bid, it's
And our
competitively
pricing
bid
is-
already.
We bid on that, and our pricing is set. So, and it's, we send all our quotes to them for review. Just- I didn't know if you understood.
How long is that bid good for? Does it have an expiration on when?
10 minutes. No. No.
Assuming we can still consider the proposal in 2 weeks that's in front of us.
Our only concern is the lead time on the condensing unit, which is 7 weeks. And I can't, we can, if and when, or if we're lucky enough to get the order, we'll do everything in our effort to expedite it, but that's the current lead time.
Well, I'm just gonna motion then that we put this out to bid instead of using the U.S. Communities bid with Train.
Any discussion on that?
Who supported?
It's moved and supported. Go ahead and call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
No.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
No. Motion fails. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we table this matter until our next regularly scheduled meeting. Do I have support?
Support.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
No.
Councilmember Owens?
No.
Well, that was just mean. All right.
You have one left.
Mr. Albright, we don't have a majority on this, so it failing doesn't necessarily mean it can't be put on our next agenda, does it?
That's correct. City administration could bring it back and place it on the next regularly scheduled council meeting agenda.
Okay.
So it really didn't matter if I
Yeah,
voted yes
so I'm
or
going to
no.
request that city administration put on the next meeting. I think we have to have more discussion regardless either way, so at least that gives us a chance to speak further. I thank you for coming out. I apologize that you don't have a definitive answer tonight.
Well, if any of the council members have any questions, they can funnel them through Randy to us, and we'll be happy to answer them to the best,
Yeah, I'll send any questions, at least that I have, to Randy, and ask that he share any information given to the rest of council, so we're all on the same page.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item B, rescind motion approving pay increase for election inspectors. Cardy, did you want to start off on this?
Sure. So for this, I just wanted to essentially, most importantly, change from what we did, I think it was 2 meetings ago now, so that we're paying the May election inspectors the rate that we approved as of July 1, so just moved back the date for the May election. Also, my second item that's in here just mentioned essentially fixing the wage that we did pay the inspectors, because in 2017 minimum wage was $8.90, and I just figured it'd be good policy for sure to pay our election inspectors at least minimum wage. We paid them $8.85, so it was 5 cents off. I suggested, I don't know what we're looking at 75 cents for a day. I don't know what sending 75-cent checks is kind of crazy, but if someone worked again in this next election, maybe added on. So I just thought that we could, I didn't know if we needed to technically rescind the previous one or could just do this in one motion where we just push back the start date from last time, because just seemed unnecessary to do 2. I don't know if, Mr. Albright, if you had a
So
different,
you're not seeking a change for what we have in place now for the November election, are you? You just want to
the
move that,
November election.
you want to move that pay back so it applies to May as well, that raise?
Right, no change in the pay suggested by Mr. Altimus, just moving it back so that in May.
I think you actually mean moving it forward.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's my belief.
I
Okay.
understood what you were.
I guess, I'm thinking back, yeah.
Right.
Yes, I mean the same thing you're saying. Pay them in May the same we would for the August and November elections, the same rate that Mr. Altimus suggested. So the 935? I don't want to mess up the numbers now.
I think it's best to do it in 2 steps. Rescind your previous motion, in essence, readopt his recommendation effective May 1.
Okay.
Of 2018.
This is the
Of
same amount,
2018.
it's 45 cents, right? They're both the same 30, or is there a difference?
It's just moving the pay forward. Instead of waiting until July 1 for the new rate to become effective, which would only cover August and September, you're just saying make it effective for the May election.
Right.
So my belief is it's better 2 very simple motions, one dealing rescinding, one with dealing readopting with an effective May 1 date.
Ms. Lucido, what's your question?
So it's still 45 cents, the same amount, okay. That we originally motioned for, okay.
You're only changing the effective date.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll motion to rescind the motion made at the March 27th meeting, increasing the election inspector wage by 45 cents per hour effective July 1, 2018.
Support.
Moved and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
All right, moving on to the next item then, which is approval of proposed pay increase for election inspectors.
Okay, so then, what about the second item, I guess, that I mentioned about, it's a little more complicated to explain.
The
I think that's gonna be
retroact,
too hard to do,
I
because
leave
we
it.
have too many changes in election workers, and it's not cost efficient to mail everyone that worked the
Yeah.
last election a check for 75 cents, like.
Okay,
So I'm
All right.
fine with giving them the increase on May 1st, but
so then forget item number 2 in my message here, and I'll just motion to approve increasing the election inspector's wage by 45 cents per hour effective May 1st, 2018.
support.
any more discussion on that?
I think it's actually better to adopt his recommendation effective May 1 versus throwing in a 45 cent
Oh, okay.
per hour.
just-
It's just easier, because he had a whole explanation. I think it's better just to adopt it with a May 1 date.
Okay.
That's
I
my
will
belief.
modify my motion to what Mr. Marucci's saying and approve the exact same motion that we did at our March 27th meeting, except for the one fact that it starts May 1st instead of July 1st, 2018.
Support.
Moved and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
All right, moving on to payroll and bills. Would anyone like to make a motion?
All right, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll motion to pay the bills in the amount of $2,992,390.08.
Support.
Do we have any questions on that? Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld?
Yes. Moving on to item 10, hearing of the public. Would anyone wish to be heard? Mr. Creech?
Thank you, Mike and council. Say Harvey Creek resident. I just love the discussion that was just there. And this is more or less what I'm talking about when it comes right back down to the implementation of your committees or your commissions. This right here, you have 5 people up there. Now you have to say you only have 4, I mean, with the mayor itself. But everybody has different ideas at different times in different stations. That's like right now, next month, the budget is coming up for the recreation center. There's some things on there I don't especially care for at all. They're talking about adding more people, spending more money. And I said once before too, we created RARE so we could have our recreation department, so we could keep it alive. Instead, now we're spending more money, or that's what they're asking for. There's a lot of things in here, like especially right here. They're creating a CIP. Who's going to make the judgment of where this money's going to go, how it's going to go, where it's going to be used? And these are things I've been fighting for since I got started. And I hope you really got a chance to read where I come from, because none of you were on this board when it was implemented. But Mike, your mother did a good job. And she finished it. She didn't think she had, but if you read that bylaw change, she finished it. It just never was implemented. Because when I talked to her, she said she didn't know if he had finished it or not. When I went back, going through the minutes, she did finish it. But there's only one way that you can do it, and that's put it in the paper or do exactly what is going to be there, or you might as well just throw it out. Because you're not going to have, there's no way you're going to have people. I signed up for it. Like I said, when you put it in there, I signed up for it. I don't know if anybody else did. But right now, it was created in 2011. You're having one person that sat for the fifth member when it said he was supposed to be neutral. From 2011, he's got 3 years to go. That's 2020. For 9 years, you've had a 3-member board for Roseville and a 2-member board for Eastpointe. There's nothing I can do about it because I said, I'm not part of council. I wasn't part of the board. I go to every one of the meetings. I voice my opinion. They listen to it to a certain point, but like I said before too, they don't have to pay attention to me. The same as you don't have to pay attention to me if you really don't want to. But I talked to Mr. Albright earlier, hopefully that right there. I already talked to my attorney. He
30
said,
seconds.
please, talk to the city. And I already talked to Tony. He said, please talk to Tony. See if you can resolve this. I hope you can resolve it, but the thing about it is too, is you've still got the same person, or you've got 3 in Roseville. There's nothing, I have nothing personally against Charles, but what are you going to do about it? I said, these bids that you're just talking about, all the financial, all administration, everything for the next 3 years that's going to come in front of this board that has two and a half up to $3 million of residents' money from this city and residents' money from theirs. I would like to see East Detroit get a verse in this. Because I said before too, I don't think I'm wrong. I don't know if any of you get the budget from the Recreation Center.
Mr. Creech, your time is up.
Thank you very much. And have
Thank
a
you.
great day.
Would anybody else wish to be heard? Oh,
Hi, my name is Marilyn. I've been in Eastpointe for 6 years now. And if no one knew, I was here last week, no, on March 27th, but my water was disconnected because I was a day late paying the bill. And I came before the city council and my family members in Eastpointe, and I had asked for help. And I just want to say, a lot of people came to my aid and brought me water, and I thank you. And a lot of people donated money toward my bill. And I just want to say that when I needed help, I thank God that my Eastpointe family was there for me. Because like I told Mr. Blum, I said it's not fair that my water was shut off just for 1 day because I was 1 day late. And I had to live a certain way for 23 days. And it's not fair. But when I reached out to my family members, you all were there for me. And I thank you for that. Thank you.
thank you.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Langston Moore. I've been living in Eastpointe for about 3 years now. Just a few things. I hear a lot about the guy was here saying something about the neighborhood, the way it's going down, and certain houses, certain residents being houses and stuff like this. First of all, we need to give the children, because the children, is a lot of them around here. And I'm a chef, and I am actually a friend to a couple of vendors right here across the street from me, Aldous Plaza at the Subway. Papa Romano's the owner there. The people at the GameStop. So they have a lot of problems with the kids. The police having problems with these kids at the school. We probably need to have like a recreation center. I hear the man talk about recreation. I don't know what type of recreation he's talking about, but I know the recreation I'm talking about is for children. Young men, young ladies play basketball, tennis, whatever they want to do. We need to give them something. anything. Something for them to do that would probably keep them out of trouble, and probably some of these police we have are older police. Some of them would like to sit chill for a day and just relax and don't have to sit here and babysit people's children. Okay, so I just wanted to say that on that note. I don't know about y'all budget and stuff. This is my first time coming to a meeting. It's actually interesting. It's like a TV show. To see the young lady lie right here talk about your AC. Talk about, yeah, we can't even get certain stuff for your AC no more, but then all of a sudden you can get it for $800. So that right there kind of made me look like the way stuff is worked today. You know what I mean? It's all about money. So really, if I'm gonna go on to something else. When you was talking about the train people, just a quick suggestion. If y'all want to deal with train, see if they give y'all some type of deal on their products. We've been dealing with y'all a long time. Won't you give us a break? You want 300 and something thousand from us? Won't you give us a break? Break that down to 200,000+, and we'll draw something up where we could deal with you later on in the next contract that is guaranteed to you, because you're showing us love. And you've been with us all these years, and I guess he knows these people, so everybody trying to stay, together and keep the money, as they say, keep the money in the family, So if you want to keep the money with Train, make them will and deal with you. I'm not about to spend 300-something thousand with you. We've been paying you money just to keep our stuff Band-Aid up, okay? So now you need to give us a break. I wanted to say something when y'all was speaking, but I couldn't. But that's what I think y'all should do when it comes to Train, because I know you said you don't want to go bidding with nobody else, which is kind of smart because they know it, but at the same time, they're taking advantage of that because they do know it. So you really don't know nothing. It might cost $150,000, but they're telling you $300,000+. You see what I'm saying? We never know what's going on. But at the end of the day, is won't you give us a break, and then we'll draw up something to say we'll work with you later on in life, or keep working with you because you're showing love now. You see what I'm saying? So, I was just making that suggestion to the team. I'm not a fifth member, but if I was, that's what I would have said while they were up here. You know what I mean? But like I said, we need to give back to the children. And if you need help, my name is Langston Moore. You can look me up. I'm right here at 15720 Cousins Avenue. Okay? If you need any help with anything, especially when it comes to the children. I love adults, but I really don't give a damn about adults. Because we live in our life. You know what I'm saying? We live in our life. It's our children. It's the young, the future. So therefore, to get them after school, and there's a bunch of children just hanging out here after school, starting trouble, let's get them out the street. Let's get them out the street and give them something to do. And how y'all make some money, if y'all about to leave this building, they make a new one, turn this into a rec center. Charge kids $2, $3, $4, $5. You kids have money. $2, $3, $4, $5, play basketball.
Mr. Moore, your time is up, if you don't mind finishing.
I'm taking my time, but that's all I wanted to say. Take some of that money and use it for your children. That might help.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, the second hearing of the public is closed. Mr. Moore, we do have applications for, if we're going to put our recreation committee back together. Maybe that would something you'd be interested in. I think we were all probably thinking that while I was speaking. So, moving on to mayor and council reports. Mr. DeMonico, would you like to?
All right, sure.
Go first.
I was hoping I had a border commission app on me, but I'm just thinking I have maps of the city. That won't be as helpful right now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Actually, I guess the first thing that I was going to talk about, kids could come to, our Music in the Plaza calendar is set. It's just right out and back here. We have a nice little setup back there, as long as weather permitting. But May 30th, we'll have a group called Denise Davis, and June 13th, so this is just every 2 weeks on Wednesdays, starting May 30th. June 13th, 2WD, formerly was WTFK. They've played here before. June 27th, Cat and Larry. July 11th, Bob and Carl. July 25th, East Side Drive. And August 8th, Jibbs Brown. So we'll be doing Music in the Plaza again, like we do every year. And second, don't forget that in May we have an election. It's a very short ballot, one vote. So look up Macomb Community College is proposing a millage. It's essentially a renewal of the millage right now, but since there's Headley rollback, so essentially they're collecting less than they were when they first started the millage. They want to renew it and then go back to the original amount that they had originally done in 2000. So your taxes only go up on the average homeowner. I think the numbers they ran was less than $3. So whatever you're paying right now, you're going to pay less than $3 for, and this funds a quarter of Macomb Community College's budget. So that'll be the one vote you have on the May ballot. So come on out or do absentee, and you don't even have to come on out and make that one vote. And then also, a great group, Relief, had helped us, well, and someone in the audience also helped us out on that project. We planted 33 trees in the city, and they're trying to gather donations because it looks like they'll get less money than usual this year to plant trees, and they're trying to raise $40,000. So if you go out, find Relief on their website or on Facebook, donate some money. I donated to them. I think, Mr. Marucci, were we hopefully having them out this year again?
You know, it's still early yet. In fact, coincidentally, I was just texting our tree provider from last year saying, what kind of trees do you have available? Because it came to my mind.
Yeah.
We're still open, and we'd love to partner with them because they did a wonderful job. And
Right.
those people were all volunteers.
Right, yeah, it was great. If you're driving up and down Kelly between Topher and 9, really, pretty much all those trees are brand new there. So, okay, hopefully we can do that again. We had our Adopt a Flower Bed kickoff, so again, if you got some time, adopt a flower bed. We still have some left, so if you'd like to adopt a flower bed, we make you a sign that says that you adopted it. You could put your business name on it. You could put just your name on it, and you're just responsible for keeping it up, planting some flowers, things like that, and help make Eastpointe beautiful. And then also, oh yeah, I thought the Mayor Pixley was going to mention this, but since she's not here, April 21st is Record Store Day, and since we have Melodies and Memories in the city, go out and buy a couple records. They're just right on Gratiot here if you haven't been there before. It's a Saturday. I guess they do it every year. I have just heard of Record Store Day, I think. But go out and buy a couple records at Melodies and Memories. It's cool. It'll probably take you back to back in the day. And then, sorry, two more things. We have our Earth Day cleanup, April 28th. So we'll be cleaning up litter like we did last year. Andy Boyer, one of our new Beautification Commission members, had suggested this last year. We got 20 folks together, and we cleaned up litter along 8 Mile and by the 9 Mile and I-94 corner there where it gets all caught up against the fence and all that. So we'll do that again this year. I'll go driving around, find out where we need to do some work, and we'll disperse everyone and do that. So if you have a couple hours, 9 a.m., we're meeting at 8 Mile and Gratiot. There's on the 8 Mile portion there's a big empty parking lot. So meet us there, and we're gonna just clean up trash throughout the city, in like medians and any, maybe some parks depending on where we need some work on that day. April 28th, again, it's a Saturday. And then, oh, actually I did just have one thing, because then my other thing here is just Election Day. I already mentioned Election Day. May 8th is Election Day for that Macomb Community College millage. So, thank you.
All right. Ms. Lucido?
First, I'd like to remind everyone that tomorrow at 7 p.m. at Pleasant View is the 8K Homeowners Association meeting. Hopefully, everyone goes out. It's a great group, and it's kind of like a nice way to meet some of your neighbors. And also, the Memorial Day Parade Spaghetti Fundraiser Dinner is Thursday, April 26th from 5 to 8 p.m. And that's it for this evening.
All right, Ms. Owens?
It's good to see new faces. Please continue to come. I'm glad everything Ms. Marilyn was, went your way. That's what we do in Eastpointe. We are a family community. And so when we see someone in our family that is need of help, that's what we do. And I've also, actually, the lady that, the 3 children that burned up in the house, since I'm not on Facebook like I used to be, a lot of the people that I've grown to know since I became elected, I'm not in contact with them like I used to. And I found out that actually I knew one of the grandmothers of the children that passed away. I seen actually the grandmother and the grandfather this weekend, and I spoke to them, and they will be having a upcoming event in regards to the children that died in that house fire. They're going to be giving out bikes and smoke detectors and things like that for the community and for the kids. When I get a date on that, I will be letting you guys know so we can go out and support the family. And also the families that have lost someone in the house fire this last couple of months. Let's keep them in our prayers as well. And also going by what Mr. DeMonico was saying about the music in the plaza, he does do a lot of vendors, so since you're a chef, you might want to get to talk with him. And, we want to continue to support our, our local businesses and people that have businesses and highlight them at our music in the plaza. And please sign up. We're starting that recreation committee. You will be awesome in it. Getting back with the kids. I'm so for that. Not only did they elect me to, to vote on things, but they elected me as a community leader to help people in the community, so that's what I do. Also, the businesses that are in Eastpointe, the little restaurants that we see and things like that, stop by and go buy something. If we're going to build as a community, let's support the people that's in the community. These businesses, people are bringing their businesses to Eastpointe. We need to support them. I see a lot of restaurants that's starting, massage therapy places. Let's support them because when they get supported, that brings more businesses to Eastpointe, and it starts looking really good. So if you're not doing something, don't always go outside the city. If you're looking for, something to do, you'll likely find it at Eastpointe because, like I said, we're a family, city, and we need to support each other as a family going forward. And you all know that I am part of the Library Commission, so we had a meeting today. And so we will be having a book sale coming up, and I believe it's May 4th, I believe. I'm looking dead at it. No, I'm sorry, it's May 5th and May 7th. So come out and buy some books for the children. I love reading books. I have my own personal library at home. I haven't read all of them. Sometimes I feel like it, sometimes I don't. But I just love just having books around old school way. I love picking up a book other than going on a website. I love holding things in my hand and reading it the old school way. So again, we'll be come support the library, support the things in the community so it don't be taken away from us. Let's support what we have already in the community. And that's all I have tonight.
All right, thank you. There was one thing I wanted to reiterate. I know it comes up every so often with us entering the season where we have heavy rains. If you are not enrolled in the SLAT program, which ensures your sewer line between the connection to the main line and your house, you should consider that. I know that the city got some residents contacting them about floods, but if it turns out that the issue's at your house, the city can't do anything about it. I was helping, and thank you, Mr. Marucci, for being really responsive, helping navigate one resident through it. As we get heavy rainflow and the possibility of backups happens, the first thing you need to know, no matter what, if you're involved in SLAP or not, you have to contact a plumber of your own first before the city can get involved. Normally, they will do a write-up, let you know, actually, it's not the city, or if they say it is the city, that's when we can go in and inspect and see what we can do. So I just wanted to say that be prepared for that. If you end up with a backup, and you know a rainfall's coming, have a plumber ready, because you don't want to wait on that. And I know we've seen it in the past where a resident bounces back and forth for a while because they don't know how to start the process. So call a local plumber first, and then reach out to the city and follow up with what the proper steps are. That said, we just put in, when I say we, the SMSD Sanitary District just put in new flow meters along 9 Mile. We're monitoring the stormwater flow. There's a lot going on in the county with drains and sewers right now, and we're looking for ways to improve that. During a heavy rainfall, whether or not you see a notice publicly, if you can avoid washing your laundry during that time until the next day, or taking long showers, conserving water, because when we have a heavy rainfall, it's best to conserve water so we don't contribute to the possibility of backup, or in the unfortunate case where spillover happens into the lake, because we're on a combined system that includes sewage. So it's best to conserve water during those times. Given that we just had like 24 hours of light rain, it was something that was on my mind, so I wanted to mention it. And Mayor Pixley is recovering from a surgery today, so she wasn't able to be here, but she's doing well. She is moving about, and so I just wanted to say I hope she continues to recover. And that is all I have. If we could move on, if someone would like to make a motion for closed session. Oh, I'm sorry.
Probably can't.
Yes, Skype.
Oh, sure. I suppose we want to move on to interview with Ryan Cotton then. Do we need a few minutes to break and get him set up? All right, how about we recess until 8:50? That gives you 10 minutes? Yeah, that'll be fine. 8:50. We didn't really discuss the format ahead of time, so do you want to give a brief introduction? And I see council members scooting in because they want you to be able to see them. I have Monique Owens on my right and Cardi DeMonico, and Sarah Lucido is, that's her hand waving on the left.
Hi, Councilmember Lucido.
Hello.
Councilmember DeMonico. Yes, I'd be glad to. The focus for you right now is a little bit fuzzy. But I've seen your pictures online, so I know that they adjusted the focus earlier if that's possible, but otherwise I can work with this. Hey, there you are. Very crisp.
Okay.
Good. So if I understand, the first question is tell you a little bit about myself.
Sure. I know we've all seen your resume, so I guess just a brief introduction. We do have a couple of residents here too.
Sure. Well, I've been in the city management field for 35 years, 30 of those years as city manager. I went to Miami University as an undergrad where I met Karen. We eventually married. We've been married 37 years. And I went to the University of Kansas. She followed me out to Kansas after being married, and that was a blessing to have her there. We got through that. It was a great program. It's the best they like to say it's the best in the nation. So I served the communities of Lake Forest, Illinois, and Upper Arlington, Ohio as an assistant manager when I was young. And then as city manager, Montpelier, Vermont, Grand Haven, Michigan, Spring Lake, Michigan, and Holland, Michigan. I'm now partly retired, and I say partly deliberately because I thoroughly enjoy this profession. It's an honorable one, and compliments to all of you for serving, and I enjoy it as much. I just enjoy it a little bit less often in my part-time role as a recruiter and a teacher. People joke who know me since college. They say you're the only person that they know who is doing something that they went to school for still, the very same thing. And it works. It is what I like, and I'm be happy to help the city of Eastpointe as a recruiter, as an interim manager, and in any way that you feel is best for you.
Great. I think that's mainly what we're interested in, someone temporarily helping out and maybe helping us along with the recruitment process. Did anyone want to start off with some questions? Sure. All right, Mr. DeMonico.
All right, I'll start. It's nice to meet you virtually here, Mr. Cotton. I think this is working out pretty well.
It is.
I just wanted to know, so of course, yeah, you'll be here a short time to fill in, to run the city, and part virtually, which I appreciate as I do software development myself in my full-time gig, and I think working from home is great if it works for that certain profession. I just wanted to know, how are you going to engage with employees during that time, while you're here or while you're not? During that 3 to 6 months, morale is important for the workforce, and want to make sure the communication's there. And how do you go about doing that?
Excellent question. The most important thing is to be there, fully present when I'm there. So I anticipate arriving between 7 and 7:30 on the days that I'm scheduled to be there, and probably not leaving the office till 6:30. And maybe longer, depending on if there's a shift change and if there's something that is associated with the police or fire department that I need to be present for. I don't know until I'm there. So I'm my custom has been to work long hours. And since my family will not be in Eastpointe, that will be no problem for me. The other thing is I would schedule some of my recruitment activity, which is mainly electronically done. Our office is in Northbrook, Illinois, and we work obviously from wherever we live. And there's I think 19 of us throughout the country. So I would schedule that work for Eastpointe on the days that I was not in the office, most likely, as well as I have a communication device called a weekly report. It goes to the city council, it goes to the department heads, the leadership team, and that kind of work would be very easily done electronically as well. It's based on what we've done while I've been present, and then communicated very well during those times. So I don't see that. I see a symmetry there, and I think that people will feel well served because of my work behavior and what I've just said.
All right. I did have one question. I know that we spoke on the phone a little bit, but it was really just to see if you were available. I'm not sure if administration or Randy Altimus had told you this on the phone. We have 2 department heads right now that need to be hired. In our form of government, the city manager fills those positions. How do you feel about that being here on a temporary basis? Would you try to fill those roles? Would you postpone? What are your thoughts, I guess, on that?
Well, one thing to add to what I said earlier is I view myself as a servant leader. If you Google that, it kind of defines it better than I can. But what that means in a nutshell is that the best leader is helping others be as successful as they can be, whether it's a coaching role, a supportive role, finding the tools, making sure the budget exists to maximize what they can do within the limits of policy, of course, and reality. But there's lots of ways to get things done. It's not all about spending money. So support is huge. So I would want to answer that question once I had a chance to get to know the staff of the police department. There's one vacancy in the public works department with the other, and understand how the workflow is going, what barriers there are. Is the fact that there's a vacancy now a huge barrier or a small barrier, and then think through the management recruitment process, the city manager process, and the timetable in the context of what barriers they have and what they need to accomplish. So my hunch is, and I emphasize it's a hunch because I don't have the data by having had those meetings or conversations with many of you, my hunch is that it would be best to ramp up the process, get the process underway, the recruitment process. GovHR does those recruitments as well. I'm capable of doing them in concert with some of our colleagues, yet not conclude those actual hires until, and probably not even conclude the interviews until the full manager is in place. So it would be synchronized and timed so that the manager, the full-time permanent manager, would be the one making those decisions. And I think that would create the right, just the right symmetry to make everyone as successful as they can be and to have the team work as best as it can be.
Okay. You mentioned GovHR, which I wanted to ask you, if we decided to go with like another recruitment company or something, is that an issue, or would you only work through GovHR on recruitment for city manager?
It's not an issue at all. It's an opportunity for you to save some dollars and have alignment that could be kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But it's no issue on the part of GovHR. It's no issue on my part if you decide to go with a different firm. I would assist in that process in any way that firm needed. I'm certain that I would, council's policy direction is the direction of the chief administrative officer as well.
Thank you. we haven't had much discussion on that. I think we wanted to wait until someone was here to involve them in that discussion, but I wanted to ask that.
Makes sense.
Does anyone else have any questions they want to ask?
I just want to, how are you tonight?
Good, very good, thank you.
For coming and speaking with us. I know it's kind of late, but being an interim city manager and coming in, what are some of the things that you say once you step into this position, say, this is what needs to be done immediately? Or, because I know you did, hopefully I know you did the research on Eastpointe and some of the things that need to be done. When you step in a position, what are some of the things that you're going to go into first and say this needs to be done first and attack that issue?
Yeah, great question. So if this is paired with recruitment, I would be doing two things at once initially, but it basically means meeting everyone and getting to know department leaders, maybe over breakfast, maybe lunch, getting to know each of you at a timetable that works for you, having individual conversations. I like to request tours of the community from the elected official. So all of us have realities that are similar, but not necessarily the same. So by getting in a car with you, Councilmember Owens, and having you show me the community through your eyes, then I know what to be planning on, what to be planning on working about, and how to work with others to try to help achieve what are some of the concerns and goals, or at least not step in it and in a way that communication wouldn't have supported. So basically, it's an orientation initially. So in the first 2 weeks, I have scoped out those types of things. If there is recruitment involved, then there's what's known as meeting with the stakeholders and asking a series of questions to make sure that I am writing the profile, if you do indeed hire GovHR, that would reflect your wishes as to what you want the permanent manager to accomplish. So either way, it involves personal contact and getting to know people. I've already read the budget. It looks like most of your funds are in good shape, really good shape. It looks like there's a planned reduction in the fund balance and kind of a soft landing to some goal. I'm not sure. I didn't uncover that yet. Your rubbish fund, there's a story there I don't know. I'd have to learn more about and understand those types of things as well.
I did want to follow up with just some administrative questions because we have your GovHR gave us the contract. I noticed that the governing law is Illinois and Cook County for arbitration. Is that a sticking point, or if we wanted to have Michigan law govern, is that something that GovHR is open to, or is that just kind of boilerplate, can't change it?
I'm pretty certain they'd be open to it. We hope to please the customer, and we've been flexible in other ways. So that one hasn't come up before, but I can certainly find out in a matter of a day. In regard to that flexibility, I'd just point out that our executive recruitments, we have 4 different levels. One from starting at professional outreach to virtual recruitment, executive recruitment, and then a full recruitment. And it's priced differently. So the fact that I'm there, of course, lowers the price substantially, but there's also a variety in how you can approach the recruitment.
Okay. I did not have any other questions. Any other council members?
I do not have any questions.
I'll go ahead.
Well, I know you help us with picking the upcoming city manager, correct? What kind of steps do you take in doing that? I know we tried our best to do it, but what kind of different steps do you take in finding the best fit for Eastpointe?
Sure. There's a whole page I could send you, but I'll summarize it. It begins with understanding the customer's needs. So we call that stakeholder interviews. That can be all of you only. It can be all of you and department leaders and community members. It can be a community forum. It can be a number of additional steps, surveys, depending on how robust you want that to be. After that, there's the completion of an ad and a profile. The ad has to meet with your approval before it's published. It's published in roughly, we allocate $2,500 to do that. It's published in about, I want to say 18 different places. Some of them involve cost. It's put on our LinkedIn site. Our site got 2,000 hits last week. It's had 20,000 hits, 20,000 since the first of the year. Some of our associates have 4,000 LinkedIn contacts. And in all ways possible, including personal phone calls, we get the word out to everyone who needs to make potentially capable and wanting to look at Eastpointe. So after that, there's a profile that's written kind of at the same time as the ad, but it takes a little longer, that illustrates the best reasons to be in Eastpointe. It also doesn't try to sugarcoat everything. If there's something that is a challenge, we elaborate on that just a bit, so people are not surprised if there is a challenge, and they're aware and they're up for that. After that, we end up collecting the resumes. We place them on a system called Jazz, in which we involve all of our associates in ranking the different applicants and eventually come up with a list of 10 to 12 that we bring to you in something that we call a book. It can be electronic, but we find that the book is actually more effective, where under Michigan law, we advise you to meet in closed session to go through what we view as the top 10 candidates, and we'll elaborate on each one to the extent that we know about them, and oftentimes we do. We knew about 2 of your 3 finalists the last time through other searches that we've done, and we can tell you everything that there is to know. Some of that is based on what's called a Factiva research tool, which goes back 30 years in terms of social media and all media. There's all the background checks. They are, I can list them all, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different types of background checks that our staff do. From that, you choose, I emphasize it's your choice on who are the final interviews, the top 3, top 4, top 5. It's totally up to you. And we recommend 2 interviews. One, you get the lay of the land, but it's the second interview that a person really, you can tell whether they're serious, whether they really are feeling it. And that's important because no one wants to make an offer that doesn't get accepted. That just, you go to the next best person because your first offer wasn't accepted. That is a little bit of, it happens frequently, but it's something that you always want to avoid. After that, there's some contract negotiation that might take place. There's model contracts that we would recommend, that ICME recommends. We've been through enough contract discussions that we can advise you of pitfalls. Obviously, your attorney would want to be involved, but also it's helpful to have some of that knowledge from and what I'm saying is pretty similar for all the different recruiting firms. I think probably WebHR's distinction is we have a long track record. We're in 29 different states, and the District of Columbia, and we placed 91 city managers last year, and 23 law enforcement officials. We've done multiple studies. We're a full service HR firm in that regard. We also have a 2-year guarantee. So if all else fails, that did happen in one of our recruitments in Michigan, Grand Traverse County. The person left for personal issues for 6 months, and our consultant there doing it again for no cost except for the cost of his travel. Mm-hmm.
All right, did you have any?
Well, I had one more. So I think it's great. It'll be great that you're an outsider. You mentioned it earlier, coming into Eastpointe. You don't know the ins and outs. You're hoping to through a tour, that sort of thing. I was just interested in your thoughts, just kind of on how you think about finding new solutions. Of course, like within 3 to 6 months, we're not going to, fix every problem, that we see in Eastpointe. But I see that you had like significant experience, I guess specifically like in environmental and energy issues. Looks like you even were in front of the legislature for some issues. What's like, I was interested to hear about a certain thing that you've done at another city that you're proud of, or saved the city a lot of money, or just something you thought was really neat. I'd just like to hear about
Oh,
some issue like
cool.
that.
Well, thank you. We all like to share our successes. Uh, I don't know exactly what your needs are. We were there, Karen and I, and we went to down 9 Mile and have a nice treat at that bakery, and drove around and saw the facilities. And I've read everything that I can, and I would say I'd compliment your staff. I think your website portrays you well, and the things that you're doing are the same things that I believe if I were your permanent manager that I would have been involved in as well. So LED lights, for example, you mentioned energy. So I think you're on, you're doing basically all the right things. But just to answer your question about when I went to Holland, Holland had a problem with gangs that was historic over the last 30 years. Long story, I won't go through. But we were involved. We did it started before I got there, but there was a huge gang arrest. 31 gang leaders were arrested and put in jail. And the police chief and I put our heads together after that and said, how can we, because he said this is going to happen again when they get out of jail, 7 years. He's seen it before. How can we fix that? Is there a different way? It's called double loop learning. I just came from the classroom, so I still talk in some of those terms. And looking at our assumptions and thinking, what are some other ways of doing this? And so we created a summer work program to recruit the youth before the gang leaders could, the ones that were still around, because they want to recruit 13 and 14-year-olds. I won't go through all of that. So after that program, we ended up putting 130 youth to work. Crime rate for juveniles went down 57%. There's a lot of more joy and happiness in these youth's lives, in their families' lives, in their friends' lives, because they're earning a legal income as opposed to, which some of them said they had done before, breaking in cars and stealing stuff. And so that was very meaningful to the community, to families, to the neighborhoods, and to our crime rate. And that is one example of the kind of thinking that I can bring. It's not done in a vacuum. It's not all about the city manager. It was done in concert with a nonprofit called Escape Ministries, the police chief's support, community policing, and of course the city council. And the last thing is, I'll say, it didn't involve a grant. It didn't involve any huge budget. We did it for $10,000 of the city budget and $220,000 of employers' budgets who were benefiting from the work the youth was doing. So it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, to my earlier point. It takes creativity, support, and enthusiasm.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb.
You're welcome.
All right. Did you have any questions for us?
I do have a few. Hi, Councilmember. I can see you now. So other than the hiring a manager, permanent manager, is there, to the earlier point, anything that's pressing in the next 4 to 5 months that you absolutely must have a resolution to? I know the Department of Justice matter, and that it's in legal hands, people more knowledgeable than I would be. But is there anything else that you would be needing, expecting?
Well, personally, I think that getting things running smooth administratively is very important, and addressing some issues possibly with employee morale. I think the reason I asked about department heads is because I think it's one of the missing pieces that's made it hard for the administrative structure to all be on the same page. We're missing 2 of those permanent positions. We do have an acting public safety director currently heading the ship of our public safety, but our DPW director has remained unfilled for years. And for me, that's a major concern. It's just getting everything running smoothly and addressing employee needs.
Okay, that's important. Recognition and morale and working relationships. Is there anything else?
Does anyone else else have anything they want to?
I think that's important to all of us.
I
to-
think those
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, those are the
city
core
ma-
of
city
running a
managers.
city.
Number one.
Yeah.
Those are the
Okay.
most
Nail on the head. Well, then two last questions. Are there any things you like best about your previous managers that you want to see more of, or your organization wants to see more of? And a corollary is, what did you like least about your recent manager prospects? Kind of a jump start into that stakeholder analysis as to what you're looking for. It'll give me a sense as to whether you would have a good fit with me as well.
Well, I think what you mentioned about actually taking a pause to figure out what it is the employees are used to, expect, what they need to improve. I think that just getting the lay of the land and understanding what structure works here, what won't, is very important. I say that because one of our candidates had very specific ideas about what he would want to see going forward with contract negotiations. And personally, I thought, hold on a second, wait and see what our unions are like, or how everyone operates before doing that. But I think just ensuring that council's informed and involved in terms of expenditures or projects coming up or that will be coming up in front of us, and making sure that our purchasing ordinances are followed. I think just simple things like that, and some of that really falls on just communication.
Sure. And I'm sure you have a purchasing policy that has certain limits for manager authority, council authority, bidding,
Yep.
and the like. Yeah, that would be easy. I looked at the labor contracts. They all looked like they expire in 2021. And you mentioned employee morale. Are there any outstanding grievances that are known or you think pending?
Mr. Altimus is shaking his head no. So
Okay.
seems not. Although I will say that when it comes to personnel, we do try to, as council, try to stay in our lane that falls squarely under the city manager. So I had to look to him because I wouldn't know. I don't always keep tabs on that because we try not to get too involved with personnel issues. I'm not sure if that's similar to your past management, but in terms of how your charters were set up.
It is.
So,
Yeah, the more that council can think strategically and long range, planning for policy change that could be hugely substantive, that's a good thing, as long as the manager and the staff are doing their jobs.
did you have some other questions?
Those are the big ones. I know you probably can't talk about Department of Justice, but if there's a resolution that is earth-shattering, I'm sure I would want to work on that. And I'll wait to hear more on that.
All right, you're right. We can't really get into the details on that, but I don't have any more questions. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I appreciate that this late in the evening you took the time to sit down and speak to us. Did anyone else want to follow up with anything?
No, I'm good.
No, but I do appreciate you saying you want to talk with us individually and see what we all want to see. Because everybody here was elected because we all have different opinions and different things that we want to see in the city. And, we just have different ideas. And so getting those ideas and bringing it to the city manager, you can see how you can work those ideas into the city,
Right.
And I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of times, a lot of city managers aren't listening to their city council and what they want. They're doing whatever they want to do, and that's not what we want. That's not what we want to bring to the city of Eastpointe. So listening to some of the wants of the residents and some of the wants from the city council is really important to taking that into consideration. And so
Very well
have a better
stated.
rapport,
Mhm.
So, yeah.
In an ideal world, we'd all, agree, but in the less than ideal world, we at least should all understand each other
Yeah.
and work as a team and create policies together that make the most sense that we can make. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I think that's about it. So we're going to deliberate now, and you'll be hearing from us.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Good luck, and let me know if I can help.
Thank you. All right. Well, I suppose we should just move on to the leasing agreement. It's fine if we're just here. Okay. All right. Moving on to approval of employee leasing agreement with GovTemps USA.
I guess, how did everyone feel about that? Should we start there?
Well, I felt pretty good. I wanted to ask him if he's sure he's not looking for a permanent position.
I thought the same thing.
I feel pretty confident that he can pick up, come in, pick up what's going on quickly and help us run things.
I guess I do. He does feel quite genuine, and I think our last candidate said a lot, or talked a lot and didn't say much, is kind of, I heard from a few residents even, and I think he was right to the point, which I like, and also didn't just promise the world and say he could do everything. I think my main thing was I was hoping that the rate could be negotiated maybe a little bit. But other than that, I think I'm feeling pretty good. He seems like very, he's got a lot of work in city management, so.
So you're saying we finally like someone? We all collectively like someone now? Yeah.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Don't jinx it.
Well, like Cardi said, I agree. He seemed genuine. He didn't promise things that he couldn't do, but he said that he will try to bring some of the things that we need. And he did say he wasn't going to hire any of the new directors, didn't he?
I got the sense that it wasn't a hard answer, but he was giving this is how I suspect I would run it, but.
Yeah.
I think he kind of wants to see how those departments are running first,
yeah.
to see if he needs to jump in right away or if he can kind of wait till the permanent city manager to take it. That's what I kind of got from that, his answer.
Or if we disagreed, it sounds like he was open to that if we wanted to just do ASAP.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was probably my main concern, because that's a permanent type decision someone coming in can make. And I'm going to, make a reasoned decision after I learn the moving parts is a good answer to that question. So,
I think he stopped in Eastpointe. Sounded like he went to East
Yeah.
Detroit Bakery. Is that what he was
he-
saying? It's in the bakery on 9 Mile, right?
Yeah.
So would anyone like to make a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to make a motion to approve the employee leasing agreement with GovTemps USA LLC and Illinois Limited Liability Company, and authorize the deputy city clerk to execute all necessary documents related to this agreement.
Support.
So I did just my two minor questions. Well, I had a second one. After reading it, there was some part that sounded strange about auto insurance or something, but that wouldn't apply, right? Because it said something about a personal vehicle too, though, and it was confusing as if we were paying part of his.
I saw that. I think that was more applicable for if he was using his city vehicle other than just commuting here from Holland. Because it looked like parts of the contract were written as if a DPW position could be filled or something. And if you put someone in a dump truck, then you need to have that dump truck insured. So I think that's what that provision was pertaining to.
Yeah, because I believe that, because he's using his own car, that's why we're paying a mileage reimbursement.
Yeah, it said if worksite employee drives a municipal or personal vehicle for any reason in connection with the assignment, the municipality shall maintain auto liability insurance? Or is auto That's just regular auto insurance.
Right, we need to have we have to have our insurance on the cars if he's driving them. I think is what it's kind of saying, so if he
Well, it
drives.
says or
ones-
personal vehicle. Drives a municipal or personal vehicle. So if he's
Yeah.
driving from here to the DPW yard, is that?
I think that was just,
That's basic language in
Yeah.
there that
I don't think
covers
he's
it.
gonna-
Won't cost us anything.
I don't think he's
No.
gonna cancel his insurance.
No.
For 2 months, and it would just, wouldn't make any sense, so.
Okay. Just wanted
I'm
to
not,
double
I wasn't, I saw that, I did think that it was a little out of place, but I also, think a lot of it was boilerplate.
And then about negotiating it all with the price, I think if he works 24 hours a week, it'll cost the city the same as if we had all 3 city management positions filled. It was a little different than when I was explaining it at the last meeting, because I was
Okay.
assuming that the rate was going to be the same pay that we,
I think, that's discounting the fact that, those other contracts had pension and healthcare and
Sure.
all those other costs tied to it. Because I actually don't think this is much more expensive than having a full-time person when you consider.
Right, and we're also paying, and we're not just paying him, we're paying the agency out of that money also for dealing with all of the paperwork, the contract, and keeping all the liability insurance and everything else on him. So he's not even getting that total amount, like the company's gonna take, their cut. So I think it was a pretty
Oh.
fair rate at $84.
sure.
I-
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. For me, I know that he's, well, Jill and Earl, we've already got basically a signed agreement, and I don't want to kick it back and forth. And I do think it's fair, so I'd rather support the contract.
And also in that agreement, does that include the background checks for the people he's talking about?
This
Since
is
it's part of
this
the-
agreement's just to hire him.
Just to hire him,
Yeah,
okay.
we'll do a different agreement when we come to our
Okay.
city managers.
Yeah, I think he'll help us in running down actually the whole process and tell us what the cost of, like, the background checks are.
Right, because and there's some other agencies out there too we might even choose to use instead of this one.
So then when he's out, because he of course had vacations planned before we, talked to him, who's in charge?
I believe our assistant city manager would be in charge.
Randy A.
Which is normal when a city manager goes on vacation.
Well, yeah, so if
Right.
Joe's gone, we're saying right now,
Yeah, I would step up.
right?
All right, we have a motion and support.
Correct.
Call the roll.
Let's do this.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
All right, moving on to closed session. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll motion to go into closed session regarding our regarding attorney-client privilege communication with our DOJ pending litigation.
Support?
Moved in support, can please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
We will go into closed session at 9:20 or 9:35.